Hi everyone, it's meteorologist Brian Bennett, and here's your update on the tropics for Thursday, May 24th. The bottom line is that we're looking at increasing odds of a rare preseason tropical storm developing in the Gulf of Mexico on your Memorial Day weekend. Right now, it looks like the center of circulation wants to make landfall between the Big Bend of Florida to as far west as New Orleans, with most likely landfall based on all the current models being around Mobile, Alabama. The main threat to Florida will be the possibility for heavy rain and also some isolated tornadoes if we happen to get some of those outer rain bands spiraling over the state. Here's the latest from the National Hurricane Center. Right now, Invest 90L, that just means they're investigating the storm, has a 90% chance of developing into a tropical depression or a tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico. They are going to send out hurricane reconnaissance aircraft tomorrow to investigate what's happening with this area of storms. It's right now in the southwest Caribbean. And this area of storms just east of the Yucatan is not a tropical depression or a tropical storm quite yet, but as it moves north into the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to get a little better organized. The air isn't quite as dry in that area. There's less wind shear. The water's very warm. So when it gets into the Gulf, we're going to start to see it probably develop a little bit of that counterclockwise circulation and become a little bit better organized. Where is it going? Here are the spaghetti plots, and you can see, for the most part, most of the models are agreeing and taking it into the northern Gulf of Mexico, right around the western Florida Panhandle, Mobile, Alabama, coastal Mississippi, maybe even as far west as New Orleans. But no model right now is taking it due east into Florida like the GFS was originally doing. And the American model, the GFS, has really been doing pretty bad over the last couple of days with this storm. The European model, on the other hand, has been rocking it. It's been very consistent where this storm is going. And right now, the latest European model has a storm moving onshore right around Mobile, Alabama, with winds right around 50 miles per hour. So that would be definitely within tropical storm status as it moves onshore. This would be later Monday afternoon. So kind of a slow mover. That's the European model. Here's a look at the GFS model, which is finally getting on board a little bit. And the GFS has it making landfall in coastal Mississippi. Taking a look at the H-Wharf model, the Hurricane Wharf model, it has it making landfall in very western panhandle to right around Mobile, Alabama. And the RPM model, the Rapid Precision Mesoscale model, only goes out 72 hours, but you can see that it's taken it in the same general trajectory as well to the north, most likely the Florida Panhandle, Mobile, or perhaps even coastal Mississippi. All right, so the Europeans doing a good job. So we can give you a bit more details as far as what to expect in Florida and surrounding areas from this tropical depression or what could become tropical storm Alberto. First of all, the timing. When can we expect impacts from this storm? Well, first of all, this evening, on Thursday evening, we're going to have a few just regular sea breeze thunderstorms develop in western Florida. That includes Tampa and Pinellas County and parts of Hernando and Pasco County, down to Manatee and Sarasota counties as well, and even down into the Everglades. But these are just regular sea breeze thunderstorms, nothing to worry about there. As we move in to Friday evening, we could see a few sea breeze storms again, and maybe even some heavy downpours again. But as far as Friday goes, this is not the impact from the tropical system. This is just some heavy rain possible from a juicy atmosphere and a bit of a sea breeze collision as we head into Friday evening. Okay, Saturday is when we start to see an impact in Florida from the potential tropical system. And first of all, let's go back to Saturday morning. Here's Saturday morning, south of I-4, chance for a few showers or maybe a storm from one of the outer rain bands, but Tampa, St. Petersburg, and areas north, you're actually looking at a dry start to the early morning on Saturday, and then it starts to deteriorate throughout the day with a few showers and storms heading towards Tampa, St. Petersburg, maybe as far north as Orlando, but areas south like Miami, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, seeing a better chance for showers and storms on your Saturday evening. And then as we head into Sunday morning, here's Sunday morning, and the European is suggesting that we'll have an outer rain band possibly impacting very coastal Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Sanibel Island, up through parts of Pinellas County, St. Petersburg, Clearwater area, and that's assuming that the track stays the same, with it being several hundred miles offshore of the Tampa Bay area. All right, so that is Sunday morning. So Sunday morning starting to look kind of rainy across the Tampa Bay area. By Sunday afternoon, this is an actual outer rain band from what could be a tropical depression or a tropical storm by this time. And in the outer rain bands, they move from south to north, and that means you can get quite a bit of rain piling up as you continue to get the rain train going over the same location. And also in those outer rain bands, you can also get the potential for tornadoes as well. So if this model proves to be true, we're going to be keeping an eye out not only for the potential for heavy rain, but also for the potential of a few tornadoes as well. Definitely not being out of the question. Now, if the center of circulation moves westward just by 100 miles or so, then we're going to see much lower rain chances for the state of Florida because these outer rain bands will stay just offshore. But if the current forecast holds true, we're going to see the potential for some heavy rain, especially as we head into Sunday. And here we are Sunday evening, still some outer rain bands training across the state, giving us a chance for more accumulating precipitation on some pretty already saturated ground. As I mentioned a couple of days ago, Lakeland area has already picked up a foot of rain so far this month. Notice the center of circulation as well out in the Gulf of Mexico and continuing to move off to the north. Here we are Sunday night moving into Monday morning. Monday morning, maybe a few showers on your Memorial Day across Tampa Bay and down towards Cape Coral, Fort Myers, and Miami area. The main center of circulation is dragging its feet and slowly moving off to the north. So here we are Monday evening. Monday evening, the center of circulation moving onshore, potentially around Mobile. As far as the weather you can expect on Memorial Day across Florida, looking not the greatest. A good deal of cloud cover and a fairly decent chance for scattered showers and storms. But right now, as far as precipitation goes across Florida and Tampa Bay, the best chance would be on your Sunday, with increasing odds on Saturday and decreasing chances of rain on Monday, and then especially as we head into Tuesday as well. All right, just quickly looking at this again. Here's a storm moving north. We're looking at some sea breeze stuff this evening and tomorrow evening on the west coast of Florida. And then as we move into Saturday night and Sunday, and especially in the Sunday afternoon, is when the best chance for precipitation would occur, especially across the Florida Peninsula. And then the actual storm makes landfall around Mobile area as we head into Memorial Day itself. All right, that's when the rain is going to occur, how much rain is going to fall. This is based on the current European model, and you can see if we get that rain train, the precipitation moving over one location, we can pick up between 8 inches, 9 inches, 10 inches, maybe a foot of rain in some localized locations if that outer band continues to move over the same location, which is kind of what the model is predicting here. Without the outer rain band, we're looking at the potential for maybe 2, 3, 4 inches of rain across other parts of Florida. So we'll be watching where the storm moves, where the center of circulation is, and where those outer rain bands go as to where the highest precipitation chances will be. Head up into the Florida Panhandle, Mobile, and coastal Mississippi, and that's where we're going to see about a foot of rain possible, as it'll be very close to that center of circulation. All right, what about winds? A lot of folks would like to go boating, of course, on your Memorial Day weekend. So wind direction and the strength of the winds is very important. Here we are on Friday afternoon. No big concerns. On Friday, we're going to have easterly winds blowing between about 10, 15 miles per hour offshore of most of Florida here in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So if you really want to go boating over the next 4 days, I would suggest Friday, as it would be the better day out of the 4 days. Let's fast forward to Saturday. Here we are Saturday evening and early Saturday afternoon as well, and the winds are blowing out of the east at a fairly decent clip. They're blowing about 25 miles per hour out here in the Gulf of Mexico, just offshore of Tampa Bay, and even the western part of Tampa Bay, you'll see winds blowing around 20, 25 miles per hour as well. One thing I do want to mention about the wind, The wind is not really much of a factor or a concern for inland areas. Maybe a twig or a real weak-rooted tree could fall down from a strong wind gust, but for the most part, the friction from the land, from the trees, is going to keep the winds fairly low for inland locations. You'll really only notice a wind if you go out into the Gulf of Mexico or an unimpeded area like Tampa Bay, or at least right by the water. So that means a risk for rip currents this weekend with those strong winds, also large waves, and just basically choppy, undesirable boating conditions for most of the actual bay itself, and definitely the Gulf of Mexico. I would suggest staying out of the Gulf of Mexico on Saturday, as it will be pretty choppy. Here we are moving into Sunday morning, and this is when we could see some of these stronger winds offshore of Florida. They're blowing out of the south now, so they're not blowing out of the east. They've actually turned to the south on your Sunday afternoon. And just offshore and along the immediate coastline, you're looking at winds blowing about 35 miles per hour, maybe a wind gust to 40 or 45 miles per hour along the immediate coast. Again, the inland locations, maybe a little breezy, but that's about it. You really don't have to worry about wind if you live in inland Florida. Again, mainly for any beachgoers or boaters would be where wind would cause an impact. And then as the storm moves off to the north, we're seeing some of the reddish colors here. That represents winds blowing about 55 miles per hour sustained, which is definitely enough for a tropical storm. 39 miles per hour is what you need to get a tropical storm. So the European is predicting not only a tropical depression, but an actual tropical storm to develop in the Gulf of Mexico. Just real quick here's a closer look at the wind speed forecast. And here we are on your Sunday afternoon. And you can see winds inland, they're only blowing about 10, 15, 20 miles per hour. You get right along the coast and the winds are blowing more like 30, 35 miles per hour. And again, especially as you get offshore, they're blowing a little bit stronger as well. So again, Saturday and Sunday, not good for taking the boat out. What about Memorial Day itself? Not quite as windy, but still going to be pretty choppy on Memorial Day. Here's Monday afternoon. Winds will be out of the south and the Bay Area and the Gulf, blowing about 15 to 25 miles per hour. So still pretty choppy as well. So if you really want to take the boat out, Friday would be the day. Otherwise, might want to keep it anchored until after this tropical system has passed by. Have we had a storm like this before? We have. Pretty unusual to have a May tropical storm. They usually don't start until, well, hurricane season starts, which is June 1st. But if this develops into a tropical storm, it'll be one of the rare tropical storms that we've seen in the month of May. Here's a look at Tropical Storm Arlene, and this happened back in 2005, and we're looking at a fairly similar path forecasted as to what actually happened with Arlene. And here's a picture of Arlene. You can see that this time of year in late May and June, the storms are very lopsided, which means that convection mainly occurs on the right quadrant of the storm. You don't get the pretty looking symmetric storms like you do later in the season. Not to say it can't bring you quite a bit of rain. It can also bring you the chance for tornadoes if you get in one of those outer rain bands. But from a meteorological standpoint, they're not the pretty symmetric looking storms. All right, you might be wondering if we're going to see any sunshine this weekend. Here's a look at the European cloud cover forecast, and let me take you over the next couple of days. All right, here we are on Friday. So on Friday, we're looking at partly cloudy skies in the Tampa Bay area. So Friday, you might actually be able to squeeze out a little bit of sunshine, but then notice by late Friday evening, we're starting to see the white color here. That represents some pretty thick cloud cover that's starting to move into the Tampa Bay area. So here we are on Saturday. Saturday will be a completely cloudy day, and then Sunday morning remaining pretty cloudy as well. But by Sunday evening, we could actually start to see a few little breaks in the clouds and maybe even see a little bit of a sunset by your Sunday evening as the storm starts to progress off to the north. On Memorial Day itself, we're looking at generally partly cloudy skies, maybe mostly cloudy at times as well, but hopefully we'll be able to make in any activities you might have for Memorial Day and dodge those showers and thunderstorms. All right, of course, with any tropical system, we have to talk about the potential for any storm surge. Not a major risk for storm surge with this particular event, but let's go ahead and take a look at Old Port Tampa, for instance. And let me drag this up here for you so you can get an idea how much storm surge it might be. For Tampa itself, Tampa Bay, over to St. Petersburg, we're looking at a storm surge of about 1.5 feet to 2 feet. So not really a considerable storm surge, actually pretty minimal. Only the very, very low-lying areas like along Gandy Boulevard in Tampa might see that water come a little bit higher than it used to, but really not a storm surge threat for the Tampa Bay area. All right, now as you head closer to the center of circulation of this storm, we're going to see a greater storm surge risk. In fact, let's go up into Mobile Bay, and here, this is in Mobile Bay, and based on the current path, we're looking at a storm surge between 3.5 and 4 feet, so we could see a little bit of flooding onto the roadways and the more prone areas around Mobile, but again, storm surge not really too much of a risk for the west coast of Florida. Head up into the Big Bend, Cedar Key, you might see the water coming up into some of the lowland, wetland areas a bit more than usual, but again, not too much of a concern for West Florida. A bigger concern as you head up into Mobile area, but even there, 4 feet isn't horrible. With hurricanes, we can get a much worse storm surge. So going back to the bottom line real quick, let me drag this down in case you fast forwarded through me blabbing about the weather over the last couple minutes. Main threat, of course, would be the showers and storms, the heavy rain, and the possibility for tornadoes. And of course, the bottom line being we are looking at pretty good odds of this becoming a tropical storm this weekend. All right, folks, that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to jot a line in the forecast or in the section below. Also, I'd appreciate any shares, likes, or comments you can do. The more shares, likes, and comments I get, the more it will bump up this post and to other folks' news feed, which means more folks can actually see this. All right, hopefully this was helpful for you. I'll have another update as soon as we have a tropical depression or anything changes. Till then, hope you have a great holiday weekend.